Good evening, everyone. It is the Camera Artist Guild Thursday Image Critique, and I am your host, George DeLoache. I'm a portrait artist and photographer's coach coming to you from Los Angeles, California. And I say that every week, but there's somebody that might not know who I am. Hey, you guys, I'm coming at you an hour early tonight. The church I belong to, we're in the creative industry, or at least we have an awful lot of creative people. They're part of the studios and recording, and so we're having a special prayer meeting for creatives, for photographers, for videographers, and actors, and anybody who makes their living in creativity. And so I really want to go, so I'm going to come on an hour early. And if you happen to be on and you're getting the broadcast live, great. If not, watch it on the replay. And, so next week we'll be back to the regular time. But this week I kind of beg your indulgence as I play an hour early. I'm going to show you a couple of things today as we get into the broadcast that I thought would be helpful. We have been reviewing different aspects, both of things for the art of photography and for the business. Remember, I break things down into threes, and in photography, I break photography down, at least professional photography, down into threes, into the art side, into the business side, and the finance side. And we have looked a little bit at the art side as we talked about lighting ratios last week and how to control the shadows. And we've talked about the different business aspects, with the fundamental one being a mind change. And that is understanding what we're doing. If we intend to make a living out of photography and a good living out of photography, then we have to approach photography as a business rather than an art form. It is an art form, and you can do your art, and you can create all the images that you love to make, but you may not be able to make a good living out of creating those. But you can take the skills and the ability that you put in your own artwork, and you can move that over into a lucrative area of photography and make a good living. And then you can take some of your spare time, like you would with any other type of a hobby, and create the images that you want to create. And furthermore, you get to buy a whole bunch of nice tools and you get to play with all of those tools, and they're paid for by your work, along with putting a lot of let's say a lot, but putting a satisfactory amount of money in your pocket and allowing you to live the life that you want to. But it all comes about with a mindset. And you have to see yourself as a lucrative businessman. You have to train yourself. If you're not learning, you're losing. Every day you have to read, you have to watch YouTube, you have to discuss stuff, join groups. I belong to PPA for years, and I belong to the affiliate since the early 80s. And it's made a measurable difference in my life through the camaraderie of associating with the people and in the image competition, which has held me accountable to grow and get better at my work. So there's an awful lot to be gained there. There's a lot to be gained with if you're in a smaller town, your local chamber of commerce, where you get together with other business people and see what the business is like in your community, and trade information back and forth, and make yourself be known. Those are things that you can do, just minor things that you can do, but you have to. They used to, Bill Sorensen called it the relentless pursuit of business. You have to constantly be going after your business, and it will pay you back. It's slow. It's like getting a train moving. You start out really slow and you keep hammering away, and slowly it builds up speed until all of a sudden you're gone. I want to see Camera Artist Guild be the best photographers in the world. I believe that we can be that. I believe that we can be a clearinghouse for nothing but photographic excellence. It's up to every one of you to work to your fullest, to take your talents and your ability and your determination and make something out of this, make something really, really special out of this. Now, what I'd like to show you today, before we get into the critiques, is just one day in the life of a working pro out here in Los Angeles. I had two assignments yesterday that I think are going to be unique, so I thought I would show them to you and explain about them. I was contacted by two clients, one from Spain, Madrid, and the other one from Germany, Stuttgart, and no, Berlin, I'm sorry. And they both wanted photographs done, and they both were photographing for their principals. One was photographing for a corporation in Spain, and another one photographing for a journalism association in Germany. And they sent me comps. They sent me photographs that they said we want the image to look like this. Now, you like to think that limits your creativity, where you say, well, but I can't do what I want to do, what I feel doing as an artist, how I look at them and decide I want to create for them. You're structured into what you have to do. But within those confines, you use all of your skill that you can in order to match and deliver a finished product, because that's what they're paying for. And they're paying good. Now, the only tricky thing to this was, or one of the tricky things to this was, that both of them had colliding schedules, and LA traffic limits their travel. And so they had to come in, one at 10 and one at noon. And I had to be able to deliver one lighting setup for the 10 o'clock shoot and one lighting setup for the noon. And the 10 o'clock went to about 11. So I had an hour between the 11 and the 12 in order to completely redesign the studio and come up with a lighting technique that would match their comp. And I'm going to kind of take you through the thought processes. So I'm going to roll around and jump on the machine here for a second, and let's see if we can't give you an idea, some ideas, some things that you can use yourself. Okay, let's just check and see if there's any comments. Oh, there's a couple of people on there. My goodness gracious. Okay, I thought I was going to be completely off. Okay, here are the two comps. Comp on the right, the Spanish lady, the one from Madrid. They required her to be an image similar to this lady on the right hand side in red. And then the Germans sent me this photograph and said they wanted something to match that, because these two guys are team members and they're going to promote them in their journalistic endeavors. And they wanted the images to look like they were shot at about the same time and about the same studio and an environment and everything. So those were the challenges. And to switch from high key white to low key is a bit of a challenge. But let me see if I can't take you through the process. Now, let's look here. Okay, there we go. We have, let's take the high key first. This was the first one. This was Lucia, and it was a high key. And I handled it a little bit different. Now, they threw me a curve. She did when she came there. She ended up wearing a white jacket. And you have a white jacket on a white background, and sometimes that's very difficult. And you've got to be able to get patterns in it. And even though she had a nice tan, her skin tone was brighter, so you could not go even darker in any way without turning some of the white into gray. So you had to get it just right on. You didn't have any room for maneuvering. So I set the entire system up for neutral gray, for zone 5, which is dead in the center of my dynamic range. And I metered for zone 5. Now, I chose 5.6 because it gives me, with the lens I'm using, gives me the best possible results. It gives me a satisfactory depth of field. I used a 105 f2.8, f2, 105 f2 lens, and it's Nikon's DC-105, which is a really a sweet lens. I used it. It was they wanted this torso, it also gives me a possibility of cropping it into a headshot if she wants a headshot. But anyway, I chose 5.6, and now I have to balance out the lights for 5.6. I have to balance out the background so that the background is reading white, and I showed you how to do that. If you don't remember, or if that episode is lost there somewhere, I'll bring a teaching on high key and how to go about setting that background, because it's a little tricky to get the background. Now, these are both straight out of camera. I have not touched them in any way except for just simply cropped them, because my files are huge and it just makes a hard time loading. But if you compare the two, here's the lady in red, and there. Now, my background is a little whiter, but if need be, I can do a cutout, drop her off the white background, copy the color of the white that's here simply by drawing it into, well, I've got it in Photoshop, bringing my brush tool up over here, hitting it to Alt, that will set the color of the brush, then install that layer behind her, and she becomes the color of the other image if that's what they want. But that was the first shot. Now, then what really became tricky was making it to the next one. Let me see if I can go. This one is what I did with this one. Now, I got to admit that I really kind of got into an ego trip when I got into this one here a little bit, and I stretched it just a little, because I looked at the way the person who handled this German shot here on the left, I looked at the way they handle the light, and I didn't like it at all. Boy, they need to tune in to Camera Artists Guild. They had used a kicker on the left side, and they had totally destroyed any modeling that would be done with the left side shadow. And they had harsh shadows, and these cheeks just popped out because of the direction of the light and how they were applying. The kicker was not the fill. They didn't have a fill in order to bring those shadow values up. So what I did was, and I'll pull up a diagram in a moment, I used my Paul Buff 36-inch softbox. It's actually the Octa with a grid. I popped it up and adjusted it until I got the exact amount of light hitting the subject that I wanted, with the background illuminated enough to bring the color pretty close to what this is. If I rotated it, if I didn't have the grid, the background would be washed out and there'd be a fade here in the center of the background. With using the grid, if you turn it too much away from the background goes black. And if you turn it too much, then you see the brown pattern. So it's just getting that grid to drop just enough light on that background to make the background look right. And then I brought in I have three rear lights. I have a kicker on the left, kicker on the right, and a hair light, but they're toned down very, very lightly. I mentioned that before. Just barely hints, just enough to give a little bit of highlight in the hair and bring that hair up. And then I have a reflector on the side. Now let me see if I can't show it to you on this diagram. Here's the subject. Now this is this modifier is not representative of the Paul Buff. The Paul Buff is kind of a deep dish Octa with a grid, but I couldn't find that in any of the mock-up stuff, so I just put this up there. And it's turned at an angle, angling it away, angling so when the model is here in front of the light, she's getting the benefit of most of the light. And I am with the grid shaping the amount of light that's dropping onto the screen. Now, this is a seamless, but you understand what I'm talking about. Then I used a V-flat, and I continue to position that V-flat. Now, the closer you come to the V-flat, the more shadow filled in. And the farther away, the less shadow. So I moved it to the point where I was satisfied with the amount of shadow, and that's simply ricocheting the light from the modifier off of the V flat back into the subject, and determining the exposure by the distance you require the light to travel. If you move it back here, then the light has to travel a longer distance. Consequently, it's going to be less, the inverse square law. If you move it in closer, then it's going to be greater. So that is the way you handle the shadow. So the way I worked it was I put up my backdrop. I used a muslin backdrop that I had that was very, very similar patterned, dropped that in. Then I got my camera position where I figured, or my camera position, position to the camera, where I wanted them set, so that I got framing the way I wanted, and I got the girl far enough off of the backdrop that my depth of field took care of any wrinkles that might be in my muslin because it's been folded up. So maybe I got about 10 foot now, maybe closer to 15 feet from the muslin to the subject. But then I set the subject position up here, planted my chair, and then with the remote, I now move in and set the key light. And I set the key light first, as I mentioned, building the background, making sure that the background is illuminated the way I want it, and looking at the way the light affects the model. Now, I can turn the model a little bit, or I could move the light back and forth this way in order to adjust the pattern on the face. If you bring it up this way, you've got beauty light. If you bring it back this way, you've got short loop, and you got short Rembrandt, or you have broad loop, or broad Rembrandt, depending on where you place that light. But I settled for right about there. I wanted it to be short, but short loop, but with a very with not very dense a shadow. So I placed it where I did, and then I've got a hair light on a boom sitting above the subject, just dropping a kiss of light inside, just enough to go in there. Now the kickers are a little bit smaller than this, but they both have grids on them, so it keeps the light from flaring into the camera. But it's just enough light to touch the subject without looking like a kicker. Now I go about balancing my lights. I take the incandescent light, incandescent, the the light meter, and I point the light meter at the light source from the position that I want a diffused value, or a middle gray value, or a zone 5 value, which is usually the forehead area. I don't want that forehead area to blow out. So I place that usually right along the forehead line when I'm doing a face, and point it back at the light and take a reading. And at first the reading was F16 because I had used my Einsteins. I used Einstein. I had used it for something else. And now I went about adjusting the light, lowering the light output, until I got 5.6. And once I got 5.6, now that means that we are good on the background. We are good on the subject. We have the lighting pattern we want. My boom light for the hair light and my two kickers are set to give that shallow amount of light, that light touch, at 5.6 on the key, because I shoot at 5.6 all the time. So I didn't have to adjust these; they were already set up and ready to go. And then I moved this V flat in and out until I got the shadow density that I was after. And then all I had to do was bring the model in, and I was able to get that done and out of the way in a limited amount of time. So that's if you had any questions, you can pop those questions in. But since we're so early, I would imagine that there are nobody asking questions. Okay, let's pop over to, whoops. I didn't want to do that. That's the address of the German corporation. There we go. Uh, well, George, I'll tell you, you are really doing it today, pal. Let's try getting Photoshop this time. Okay, we got Photoshop this time. We can close these out. Let's close out this one, close out this one, and let's bring in Camera Artist Guild. I thought I had it up. I didn't. So 9/29/22, and we have the images for Camera Artist Guild, and let's pull them over here on the Photoshop and we'll get the critique going. Okay, we got some really great images. I picked 5 that I thought really had merit. I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna push you guys a little bit harder. I am. I love photography, and I also enjoy teaching. And you guys just make my life wonderful. Camera Artist Guild is a it's a great group of people, and I have been sometimes torn between being too critical and being too nice because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And I am not going to change that around, but I am going to step up the pace a little bit because I want you guys to aspire to greatness. I want you to be great. I want everyone out there to be fabulous, whether you're in Africa, whether you're in India, whether you're in the United States or South America, doesn't make any difference. Like I said, I want them to hear the roar of Camera Artist Guild all across the world. And I want them to turn to Camera Artist Guild to find top rate talent. And so, yeah, is that a big dream? Yeah, it is. But I believe in big dreams and I believe in you. And so together we can do that. Okay, this is the first image. It's Keith Davis. It's a composite. And I like your idea, especially today with all of the stuff that's going on in the Middle East and the problems that are there. This lady looks Iranian, and I don't know whether that was your attempt or not, but I see the mosque and the buildings, and uh, one thing that I'd like to point out on this one, I like what you're doing, and you apparently shot this high key, then you did a dropout, then you put it on your backdrop. But I want you to stop and think when you're doing your original photograph of this lady, where is the direction of the light coming from, and where would the lady be standing in relationship to that light? Rather than just lighting a face, which you did, and you did a wonderful job of it. I love this beauty light setup. I use it all the time, and it's a butterfly type light. It's executed perfectly. The shadows underneath the nose, the butterfly shadow under the nose doesn't intersect the upper lip, and it doesn't go into the nose. It meets right there in the middle. It's exactly where it's supposed to be. Your pose is strong, but now, if you were going to place her in here, understanding your light source is back here behind her back. So you can't depend upon the sun to illuminate her. You can't plan to light her as if she was illuminated by the sun. So you're going to have to think through, and she's going to have to be illuminated by an interior light source. And an interior light source, unless she's in an auditorium, is not going to be flat all the way across. The same amount of light hitting the top of her head as hitting her bottom. So that calls for a grid, and it calls for a smaller light source, figuring that light source maybe 30 inches, 36 inches, 38 inches, somewhere along in there, maximum. And you want a grid on that, because with that grid, you can turn that grid so that you can bring this area here, and there'll be a shadow fade right down into our lower extremities. and then maybe rotate her head a little to the camera left and pull that light around in the short light position so that it would look like it's coming, coming down this corridor and striking her. And then that just really, now, I don't know for sure. I'd have to play with it. But that is the process. You, first of all, you come up with your concept, which you've done, and then you visualize your final image. And in the process of visualizing, you ask yourself a question: where's the light coming from, and how can I put that light on her in the most becoming way to make her look stunning and outstanding, but yet still stay true to the light direction. Now, a lot of photographers don't take account for that, and that's why some of their images just don't pop the way they should. They're kind of hit the ho hum button. This one doesn't. It's good. Youth, you're an excellent photographer. I thank the world and all of you, man. You are a hustler, and I'm praying for you all the time, brother. I just want to help you continue to grow just like you've grown before. So I hope that makes sense. It's not one of the new AI programs. It might be, and I'm just not familiar with it. It's only certain thing. I only got so much space in my brain, and I'm cramming information in from every direction. I missed that about the new AI. It may very well may be. But if it were a composite, and see, he showed an image side by side. You'll see it when you look at it on the guild page. But side by side, he showed one image in white, and then he showed this finished image. So I assumed it was a composite. Okay, next image, and this is Jerome Hart. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. I'm glad you're out there and still going. You've been with us for quite a while, and I am really glad to see your work. Interesting photograph. A couple of things I do to spruce it up a little bit more and take it on up to the next level. Number one, the position of the light. Now, I don't know, and I am trying to figure out here. Let's see. It looks to me like you've got a softbox camera left and a fill light at the camera position. It's a smaller fill light. That's this little dot right here, and then this is your softbox or umbrella, one of the two. So let's keep that light, the key light, where it is, and let's move that. Now this is going to sound crazy, but let's move that fill light away from the camera position where it is, and that's a traditional position for a key light. Now, it should be a large softbox, and the theory is that it's supposed to be non-directional and non-specular. But I have found that if you move that key light off just a little bit, see, because where your light source here, well, actually, unless you're going to go to a 6-foot softbox like I use, I'll stop that and go keep it where it is. Just tone it down some. Right now, it looks as if the light striking the subject is coming directly on, rather than off on an angle, 45-degree angle. But it's neither here nor there. That's it. You can try rotating her body a little to camera right, and shooting. One of the rules of the thumb is you shoot into the hair part, especially when the hair is dripping or drooping over the eye like this, and that shadow comes right down through the iris. If you were to move her a little to camera right and rotate your camera a little to camera left, then that part would be closer to the center, and this shadow would disappear behind the hairline. Otherwise, you got to deal with this shadow right down, all the way down her eye and down her face there, which kind of is a bit confusing when the eye is looking at it. Okay, the next thing that you could do is consider, like I pointed out earlier, the two kickers and a hair light if you can get away with it. Very, very light. Very, very light. I see it say that very, very light. Just enough to separate her from the background. Now, if you don't have three lights and you can't get three lights up on them, and believe you me, you can. I'm not trying to get you to buy any gear. I believe in form follows function. Only buy the gear you need when you need it, and you get that gear's got to pay for itself in the jobs you're shooting. Otherwise, it's a toy, and it doesn't have a place in a business plan. But you can go on eBay and you can find older strobe lights relatively inexpensive, and you can find modifiers relatively inexpensive. Now you don't have to buy Shamira or Profoto or Hensel's or Ellen Chrome's or one of the other fancier brands. I photograph every day with photogenics that were made in the 70s and they're still kicking away. I don't think I could get $25 for them, but they work. They work just fine. They squirt photons, and that's all a strobe light can do. So whether you spend $1,000 on a Profoto, what is it, B1, or maybe it's 3 or 4,000 on a B1, or $25 on a used photogenic, when it gets to the actual creating of the image, it doesn't make any difference at all. It's how you handle that light. So you can come across inexpensive light sources. If you're in a major city, look in Craigslist, because there are people like me that are at the end of their career. I'm not. I'm still going strong, but there are people that have reached the end of their career and they've got older equipment and they're trying to sell off their studios, and they will sell the stuff for cheap because they can't compete with the newer products. Everybody thinks they want newer because somehow newer is better. But just consider that as a source. And another thing that you could do to add a little bit of extra dimension to it is place a light on the background. Put a little bitty light on the background, just kind of fading into the background here, just illuminating. Again, light, light, light. It was Don Blair that uses the example of all accent lighting should be like spices. Too much spice, you spoil it. Not enough spice, you don't have any flavor. You're looking for that exact amount in order to get that image to look the way you want it to. But I hope that will help you out a little bit. Okay, we've got Erskine Isaac. Dude, I love it. I love it. I might have handled the light a little bit different. Actually, I don't think I would, but I maybe tone the light down a little bit, but all in all, it's a killer image. The story it tells, the narrative it tells, every one of those kids is just on point as far as their appearance, their look, their attitude. They're all tweeners, just beginning into teenage. And I remember when I was a kid and we used to ride bikes with all the rest of the kids in the neighborhood, and the sense of freedom that you got when you finally got away, you got a chance to get away from home and go whatever direction you decided to go. If you wanted to go left or right, up or down, you had control of that. And it was you and your bike and your buddies. And man, those were really good memories. And you triggered every one of those memories for me. And this image does that. So congratulations. And just keep it up. You're into something there. Just refine the lighting maybe a little bit. Take a good, long, hard look at Annie Leibowitz's stuff and see how she handles her light. She uses soft lighters to illuminate her shots with that. I don't know what you're using on this one, but look at Annie's stuff, study Annie's stuff because she does things like this. Okay. Okay, Diana Rucker. Fabulous. I love it, Diana. You are doing just really good. You're trying something a little bit different. We'll enlarge it up this way. Getting into that family stuff, and you are on the 1/3 compositional line where you're supposed to be. It is a larger image with smaller family grouping, which is perfect for wall art. You don't want this to be a full size image if you are going for wall decor. If this is a 30 by 40, then the people will be just right when you're viewing them from a distance of 10 feet or so. Um, it's difficult to get that little baby boy to turn around and look at you. So you do the best you can. When you got two toddlers this age, that is really a challenge. I think I would try to get Dad to put his hand if you can. I don't know. It looks like he's tall enough. Either hand on the shoulder, on the back, and they'll get the hand out of the pocket. Now, if if you're gonna have them put your hand in their pocket, that's a pretty good way too, with the thumb hooked in the pocket. But try to bring this one maybe around right in front of Dad, and then Dad could reach out and touch them. And you got Mom there, and then you want to get Mom to look up at the camera, and that means you got to talk it up, and you just got to take, when you think you've taken enough photographs, take some more. If you think you've taken about 10 or 15, take 20, because it'll be that one time that something isn't right, or it could be better and you didn't do it. So while you're there, just work it out. You also might try toning down the key light just a little. It is a tricky situation. I would almost look for another location. Although this is, it's a beautiful location. This is why I'm saying that. You've got harsh shadows on their face. Now, the best way to probably beat that is if you had somebody working with you that could supply a second light source rather than just the one light source. A passive fill, a reflector, might help out. You might be able to catch some of that sunlight and redirect it back. What you want to do, if at all possible, is lighten up the shadow. See the hard shadow underneath Dad's chin, and the hard shadow underneath Mom's chin, and the lines here in the face. Well, those would disappear, or at least, well, I don't say disappear is not the word for it. They would be lighter if you control that shadow a little bit. And then just work on trying to get that little guy to look forward. If Mom looks forward, he may look forward, and you got to get them all together and talking. And, look, I do family portraits. This is not an easy one to pull off. You did a great job. It's saleable. Congratulations. Okay, Willie Demetrius Richardson, you did it this time, Willie. I love it, man. Really, where you get these sets, these scenes, I don't know, man. Whether you own your own private jet and can travel all over the world, looking. I mean, you've had wonderful waterfalls and wonderful water shots. You've had derelict trucks in the middle of the field. Brother, you get around, and you have gotten some unbelievable models and some great sets, and I just commend you for it. And just keep up the good work, keep pushing. But you've got her in on the 1/3 compositional line. Because she is red, she stands out very nicely, and because you put her on the 1/3 compositional line, it is very nice. And because you have matched the overcast sky and the time of day, so that the light itself was lower. Perfect, just in every aspect. I couldn't see it handled much better. Yeah, I maybe try to, and this is really nitpicky, clone out this rail so that it has a more that continues with the medieval kind of a look to it. But that's all. Okay, and Tony Shaw, and just one of your great kid shots. I love this little girl, and interesting. You have taken the Elizabethan type collar here and used it with the girl with the big fro, and I had a fro almost that big back in the 70s. Well, not quite that big, but I still had a fro, buddy. Let me tell you. Uh, Interesting. Now, there's one thing that I mentioned, and this is a case of preferring. And you are the creative artist, and you are very good at what you do. And so, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just giving you suggestions on kicking it up, possibly to the next level. Uh, the thing that she's holding on to, you know what it is, but nobody else knows what it is. I think it's an African mask, and if that is it, then figure out a way to get more of it in the photograph, so that you can tell more of the story. Because right now it's just brown and black and it's got some marks on it, and I don't really know whether it's a handbag, but like I said, I think it's a mask, but you can't see it's a mask. So set it up so you can see that it's a mask. And the other thing is that there's a treatment that I think you're using that causes this to have kind of a fog look to it, because I've seen it in a lot of your work before. And preference. This is preference. This is not a criticism nor correction or anything like that. Just suggestion, but preference. I like saturated, uh, deep color, and this looks kind of like there's a lens flare. But it's up to you. I also like contrasting and color saturated, and then large color range. I try to shoot in 14-bit and interpolate it up to 16-bit, just to keep as much color as I possibly can until I render the final image. But those are just possibilities. But girl, you are doing it. I'm your biggest fan. uh, oh, I wanted to say something to you guys, and I'll wait. We're done here, so let me spin back around to the camera, and all of you guys, man, who are over there facing the path, who are in Florida and in the Caribbean. We have quite a few people from the Caribbean that watch. Uh, my heart goes out to you. My prayers are with you. I've been talking to friends that I have in the Florida area, and it's tough. And you guys up there in Georgia and the Carolinas, it's coming your way, if not already hitting there, and it's going to be a wet one. So please be safe. It's better to be safe than sorry. And look out for your family. Look out for your friends. And my prayers are with you guys. I'm a praying man, and prayer answers things. Okay, that just about does it. I forgot my tracking ball over there. That about does it for the week. Let me get around here, check and see. Okay, you say you cropped out the mask because you didn't like it. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. Look, I'm with you. Whatever you decide to do, you are coming along. And like I said, I want Camera Artist Guild to be a force in the photo industry. I believe in you guys. I believe in what we can do. I know we can be the best out there. I don't care. Well, I do care about PPA because I'm speaking there in a couple of weeks. And I care about WPPI, and I care about all the local groups and Nigerian photographers and Zimbabwe photographers and Namibia photographers and Ghana photographers. I talk to all of you guys. But I believe the Camera Artists Guild can be a force to be reckoned with. Advertise our group. Tell your friends about it. Bring other people in. Let them know that this is a place where we speak photography. If you are new, you can come over because some people are watching this on YouTube. Some are watching it on Facebook, on the Facebook page. Come on over to Camera Artists Guild group. Ask to join. You answer a couple questions. I'll let you in the group. Then all you have to do is post a message, attach your photograph to that message, and I'll select 5 every week and do a critique. And let's see, anything. Oh, October the 27th, here in Los Angeles at the PPA, I am bringing a talk about how to not be overwhelmed by this ever-changing photography world, both business and experience-wise. So come on out and join us. And you've seen the ad, and I've got the ad in a couple of publications. So anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. I think I've handled everything. I got my creative prayer group going tonight, so I'm on my way to that. And I'll be praying for you guys. Again, be safe out there in that weather and take care. We're out of here. I think so anyway. Okay, you guys.